What's up, guys? Welcome to the Do Good Movement. Our purpose here is to make a positive impact in our society through real-life education. The movement comes into play when we share the content to help other people do good just like you. So today is a random, I would say, show that just kind of hit my mind about 10 minutes ago. So I grabbed a couple of the badasses in the building. James, the president of our business.
How are you?
And then Scott, the COO of our business.
How's it going, everybody?
And I was like, I have some time off right now, so I've just been going through social media a little bit, and I always get this question on, like, how do I start a business? My job's not working out. Like, that's the only way to success. Then I'm looking, and I'm saying, well, yeah, I started my own career, and I could give you 1,000 reasons why and 1,000 reasons why not. But what better people are there to talk to than two guys sitting right next to me that both helped me inside my business, both have been an employee, not here, but in other businesses, and are very, very successful and crush it. And so I just want to bring these guys on and just say, let's ask them, right? Why did you choose employment versus going in and opening your own business? And we're going to ask a couple questions around it, but I just want to start with both, you, Scott, and James, on when you're coming out of school and you have that option on, hey, do I go do this for myself or do I go work for a company? What made you choose one versus the other? Let's just start there.
I don't know if I did choose.
No?
If you look at it, I guess I didn't realize that opening up my own business was an opportunity for me. I just came out of school. The natural thing to do was go to work, right? So growing up, I had a couple jobs, a couple things I did with a few people, and I guess I never viewed it through the lens of let me go bet on myself and go do my own thing. Always wanted to, but I think it was just natural that I just moved directly into the workforce. And to be completely transparent, it's almost like you get captured, right? I always tell my son's an entrepreneur, and I always tell him that his mom, he'll never work for a company because he's an entrepreneur at heart. Well, it was almost like me. I got into an organization. It felt like I loved it. I wouldn't take it back for the world. I've done very well. I had a lot of experiences and a lot of impact on people. Mm-hmm. But again, I guess I just kind of jumped in the workforce and started going, and it was just natural, and it worked.
Yeah, and I want to get into some questions about that, by the way, because it's going to be a really cool story. But what about you, Scott?
Mine,
and sorry to put you guys on the spot. I mean, I literally just walked in. I'm on break, like they're running a business here, and I'm like, hey, guys, come jump on this video and help me out real quick. So this is just shooting from the heart, right?
Yeah. So my experience is a little different because, grew up with, family of entrepreneurs, all my grandparents, my parents, aunts, uncles, like everybody owns their own business. Like that wasn't a new involvement for me. That was always like, not an expectation, but that was like, that's where the family played. Like you did your own thing. Like you started your own business. Like people like forged careers and did different things, but my like growing up and childhood is around people running businesses. Like there's pictures of me everywhere being like a toddler running around my grandpa's office.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's cool.
Well, where are we going? That's where we go because we're going to work.
Yeah.
So that environment kind of set the stage for me in a lot of ways of like what that expectation of entrepreneurship was and was not. But like coming out of school and that decision for myself of like make that call to go do the same thing or be part of an organization and forge a path there really was about, well, frankly, like everything is earned and nothing is given in my family. That's like, doesn't matter how well anybody's done, like that's not going to be handed to you. And if you want that, like you're going to do it on your own. Like they're there to help you and guide you, but sure as hell not going to be a handout. So that being said, it's like to get started up in that beginning piece, like starting at zero like anybody else. Like I need a launch pad. So like get out of school, find somewhere, like I need to get some capital going, I need some money going, and like that would be the eventual play.
Yeah.
But for me, like frankly, like found somebody that partnered well together with, worked well together with, in this organization. And
so yeah, that's going to be my next question is, so as a launch pad is like that's kind of the only option at this point is, let's go get a job, let's go start somewhere. And you guys have continued that. So what, you must have saw something in the business that you joined. Not saying it's this business, we could even talk prior, but you must have saw something that's wanted you to stay there, right? Like what is that? Because I think a lot of people today, they're either not looking for it or they're not open for it.
Yeah.
You know, wait, who wants to start?
I'll roll with that one. I mean, from, like our relationship, I was anybody just off the, a regular job posting just like anybody else. So it's not like we knew each other. So we still had to build that relationship around like vision for the business. Like, what does that mean? Like, I started like collecting a check just like anybody else, like with a hope that that's a possibility, but unsure of how to get there. Right.
Yeah.
But that all changes as you start like stamping really like your checklist of like, do we have similar vision? Are there similar ambitions? Is there a pathway here for me where you can check all these boxes accordingly, whether that's through, ownership, development, personal growth, career path, whatever the case may be. And is it equivalent or better than what the other paths would have been?
Yeah.
But that's a unique finding, I think, of like, you need to have that defined for yourself of, 'cause like for me, I always knew I'd manage a business. Didn't know what business, didn't know where the business was, didn't know what the hell the business did. That was just a statement. That was a fact of going to be a part of my life. And that was like, when we met and started working together, okay, well, here's a route to do that. I like what we're doing. I frankly don't have to take the same risks as the business owner, but get to develop, get to build something and create something that's, unique and special to, my life and the people that we're impacting along the way.
That's well said. How about you, James?
I would say similar, because when you think about once you get into a company and you really start working with a company, you start building success, you start building momentum, and you have this following. I mean, the thing that always captured me was I had a boss one point and said, James, I think I could pick you up and put you in any state and you're going to go do a good job.
That's really cool.
And I said, okay. But I need you to take that challenge, that risk. So once we started doing that as a family, my wife and I jumping around, taking other opportunities, and it felt like I was starting a new business every 2 years.
Yeah.
It was a new team, it was a new sector. And then what became fun was the people I led, you start getting a following. People start going with you, and you're taking, very similar to your and Scott's relationship. I was taking groups of people, moving them to state, business to business, standing that same situation up, running the same play, sometimes tweaking it a bit, having a lot of success, building a lot of momentum. And honestly, it was like a high. It was like a drug. It was constantly, every time we made this move and started working through a new company or a new division or a new department or in a new state, it was the same challenge, but it was starting at zero too.
Yeah. That's really cool. And I'm sure, did you guys, so there's not really a class, I guess, on like entrepreneurship, right? There's kind of some theories and stuff, but you go, I believe a lot of people, they go to school to learn what they can, and then it's like, go and get it. And what I've learned, because you guys coming here and you help educate me and give me a lot of stuff to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, I need to develop this, I need to develop that, because all I've learned is kind of falling down and getting back up, right? And then when I talk to you guys and you guys come in here, you guys come very, very well educated. You know business like to the heart. And one thing that I would say I want to call out here is through the careers that you guys have had, it's almost like school didn't stop. Like, you guys are getting paid to continue to get educated, and you build this massive tool belt, right? So it's kind of how it is.
I tell people all the time that you grow through experiences. So the different companies taught me different things. It actually taught me, the first couple of companies really taught me what I didn't want to do, who I didn't want to be as a leader. But Nestle, when I went to that company for 17 years, really felt like home. It felt like the best education I could ever got. Just working my way through that company. They did a great job of developing new skill sets and things like that to me. But it's like I told you, I'll tell anybody, there is a vast difference, because now working with you and Scott and watching the challenges of, it is different.
Yeah.
When you've got investors or you have big corporations that you can pull money, do different things from versus, we making the decision and it's like I'm taking out of my pocket every day. Just having a conversation about some salaries. I'm like, I'm not taking that out of my pocket right now. I can't. Right. So you think about it and you go through. My son lives that life too. My son's an entrepreneur. He's, has his own companies, but when you just look at the way he views the world and I view the world, I view it in a more complex manner than what he does, and his way works very well. He's been very successful. He'll be very successful. It's just the hard part. I don't think exactly like him. He doesn't think exactly like me, but together we're good.
It's a good team.
And I think, really when we look at our team and some of the stuff we're working on here at Turf Distributors, same model, right? We're really getting to a point that we're working together, leveraging each other to build something special. Yeah. And that's what keeps you engaged in the organization.
That's right. And it's crazy because also one thing that I've learned working with you guys is now there's in business you have a profit and loss, right? It's how you track your revenue, your expensive, your cost of goods, and then what's left, the net profit. And then you have to grab the net profit, you have to put it back, make sure it stays in the company to cash flow, and just keep stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. And it's just always, how do you get everybody to think like an owner is really the goal, right? How do they treat things like it's theirs and have a certain amount of money to work with and really run it that way? And I'd say, James, when you came in, you basically asked, hey, do people have budgets? Do they have profit and losses? I'm like, what do you mean? We got one profit and loss, right? And so he's been able to show me how each division you're able to build a profit and loss statement per division where they have their own capital to work with to make their own decisions, where they're literally running an entire business for this piece of the company, and then breaking it down even further where now their employees have scorecarding metrics and different things that they're accountable for and goals they're trying to shoot past that helps their P&L look better, which helps an overall company look better. So it's pretty interesting on it's the same, the even corporate America, right? They're teaching you how to be an entrepreneur in the space and run your business. And I thought that's pretty cool.
It really is.
Well, I think it's that opportunity to be in that space, whether it's in a company, starting a company, whatever the case is, it's being able to be that engaged and run and manage that part of the business. Because, frankly, without it, you do stay as an employee. You stay within a realm of, what is my advancement? But when you can make the decisions, you're running that, whether big piece, small piece, whatever the case is, that, I think, to me, that separates everything between really this topic of owning versus being in a company.
Yeah.
Because without that piece, obviously you can drive a lot of those portions through culture, engagement, and all these other things from all levels of employment. But really, if you're at the inflection point of, do I start my own deal or do I stay, I would say that that's probably the must-have for anybody in that decision, one way or the other.
Right. So I think a lot of it at that point is control, but giving people their own profit and loss and budgets to work with, they have control. I think that's why some people hey, I want to go for my own business and do what they want to do. But if you jump into a company that's structured, you really have that play. Right. Plus the team support and the educational system versus, hey, I'm just starting this out. Let's see how it goes, right?
Right.
So another question I had is what, from your guys' viewpoints, and I have 1,000 of them, but what are the cons of owning a business? Because a lot of people see this benefit, right? They're they see the money and the vacations and all that stuff, but I went through years and years of shit of and then I get to meet guys like you, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I picked the right road. If my kids ask me, I'm definitely not going to say you go open your own business or go work for a business. I might help them and say, let's go find you the right business to go work for. But there's a lot of life when you, I guess I'm jumping into this, but there's a lot of life you give of building your own company and not knowing if it's going to make it, right? You're chasing this opportunity so damn hard, hoping that you're going to hit that jackpot, but you could have gave 10 years and just worked your ass off, and then it's gone, and you got literally nothing from it besides hopefully what you learn down the way, but you don't really have people at this next level above you to teach you. Like, you're paving that on your own way as a company working for a large organization. Like, there's people making those deposits into you. There is a paycheck that's coming basically guaranteed unless something happened to that business.
But, it's funny you say that, because you got the same risk, because when you look at it organizationally, take COVID or take the world right now, everything going in. As an organization, you got to make decisions. So at some point, people that had a good job, made good money, worked their way up in an organization. I walk in and call in the office and say, I got to let you go.
Roles eliminated.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
And then I've lost everything. And, so when you look at it, it's a little bit of the same, but different. Because when I think of an entrepreneur and watch what an entrepreneur builds, is everything you learn is through the experience in which you learn it, right? So you go through the process, you learn it, you stand it up. But the other thing about it is, frankly, it's yours. So if you look at it, I worked in corporate world for 20 years. Traveled the world, did very well for my family. Everything I'd won out of that career, I enjoyed it. The downside is now you get to a reflection point, you say, what's the benefit of starting your own business? Is leaving something to your children, leaving a legacy that's bigger than just I work for a big corporation all my life. And so you start thinking about those things. You create something special, even though you go through pain. Well, geez, when you start with a big company, you go through pain. You don't just walk in, I guess, to everybody out there. You don't walk into an organization, apply, and you're the director, you're the president, you're the person making all the decisions. You walk into the company, you work your way through an organization. You're at the bottom, you grind. Same type scenario.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of that comes down to also how you start like valuing the experience and what you're trying to create for your life, because it's, you go through the corporate realm of that side of things. Like, there's maybe the paycheck's a little bit more, recurring, or be able to count on that a little bit more. But to James' point, it can go at any time. Same thing on the entrepreneur side is you're making that, building that, your control schedule, you traveling the world. I'm sure that wasn't on your terms.
Oh.
That's something that's made for you. So like, there's definitely different benefits to that of when you're making those decisions. But I think it all really comes down to like what value you put on that and the life experience that goes with it. Because if those things aren't lining up, like frankly, you're putting yourself through hell one way or the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Like pick one. Just hopefully that one variety is more of who you are as a person and individual, and really what you're going for. The thing that worries me about most people is that they end up kind of like you're saying, you kind of get sucked into this thing, right? This corporate world, you're just like in this whirlwind of like, this is my life and this is what's required of me.
Yeah.
But then you either make a choice and you have a hard turn, you get the hell out, or you're stuck in it. So it's like those people that are just going day to day of, this is what I'm expected to do. I'm checking in, checking out. I'm expected to perform X. I mean, that is probably my concern for most people is like, are you in that? Or are you like truly invested in what you're trying to create? Like, James, you're traveling around, starting a new business every couple of years, right? But like your success, your drive, like is rejuvenated every time, right? Versus like the guy that's, all right, I guess I'm here to work today. Like today's Monday. Like, no, are you here to play or not? And I think that's the biggest separator, regardless of the path that you pick of, that engagement and desire to, make something of yourself or for yourself, or your family, whatever the case may be.
Right. Where did that engagement come from? So you guys both operate as like this is your ship and like 100%, right? And you guys, I've got that from the interview with both of you guys from the very beginning, right? That's how it was in the last careers as well. So like, where does that engagement come from? Like, is that just in you guys, or is that something about the company that draws you guys in? Because also some of our audience listening, they might just be at the wrong company, right? Or it might be something in them just not saying, hey, I accept this, I'm going to go drive this thing. Like, what was it for you guys to really draw you in and say, yeah, this is awesome, let's go do this?
I think for me is I was fortunate to work around great leaders. I had some really good leaders throughout my career that engaged me to a level that allowed me to, I really feel like I'm the owner. I mean, to be transparent with you, I walk in here every day like I'm the owner, right?
Yeah.
I'm spending the money just like anybody else.
Yep.
It was the same thing in corporation. You know, because I was at Nestle and making a decision, I made the decision just as I was writing the check. But that didn't come from anything other than I had leaders that positioned me. If you're out there and you have leaders that are investing in you and developing you, giving you opportunities, sometimes believing in you more than you believe in yourself, putting you in the game at a higher level, to me that fosters that engagement to where you truly start acting like an owner. You truly start owning the business.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then I think, as you transpose that, it's really, taking that all the way down, giving people the responsibility to be responsible for P&L, understanding that what it really means to lead a group of people. It's not, hey, go get the KPI, hey, go get the result. It's the fact, can you make them successful? When they buy a new home, you should feel good. When they buy a new vehicle, you should feel good. But the investment in people and the way it's done to you and then the way you transpose that to people you lead, I think creates that ownership level at all levels of the organization.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the ownership part, I think, like, you create through that leadership piece, like, that level of this is my company, but there's also that raw ambition part of, like, frankly, I'm not going to lose, regardless of in a role, own a role, like, whatever the case is, like, that part of, I feel like those two things go hand in hand. Like, you have to have the leaders, you have to have people invested in you, you have to have those opportunities to grow and develop. But at the same time is, hey, I'm going to make this thing as big and the best I can right now because this is me.
Yeah.
I think those two things, like, come together in a sense to kind of build that level of engagement from, like, ownership in that the weight of the decision, like, sits on your shoulders, but then also, like, roll the dice, make the decision, how are we going to win? Like, and that's really where I think there's a little bit of a separator there, just in the sense of, a lot of people walk around with, like, the weight of their world's on their shoulders because, like, oh, I'm responsible for this.
Yeah.
But then are they actually trying to, like, win? Like, or are they just walking around and, like, man, I made a lot of decisions today. Like, great, but are they, like, progressive? Are we moving forward? Like, does it move your personal, professional, the company forward?
Right.
And I think that part really is where, like, the level of engagement comes in, because part of that is driven by the organization. That other half comes from you as a person, like, making that decision to do it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And as you guys are talking, I'm just sitting here thinking, because I'm a lot, like, what you guys are talking about, that I feel the same, right? So I don't walk around this place like, hey, I'm the owner, this is me, like, everybody works for me. Like, I don't have any sense of entitlement here or like power. I feel like I'm almost at the very bottom. And, like, what I mean by that is, like, I work for the company. And I think what's made that shift in my mind, guys, is in the earlier years, I was so, like, everything I was doing was for the profit, right? And so if we had a good month, way up here, just super happy. If we had a bad month, like, I'm dragging down in the dumps. And so I had to get to a point, I had to, like, find a way to disconnect my emotion from the business. And when I disconnected my emotion from the business, the way I did that is just say, hey, I'm here, I work for this, I'm here to learn. If all I get out of this thing at the end of the day is an education, I won.
Yep.
Right. I'm getting the salary, like, I'm getting through it. And that's the only way I've been able to disconnect my emotions, which then puts me in that same spot of working for the business. And I've never been that guy either, because I lose, a few people on this team. Like, I'm all the way back to the square roots, right? And so my job is to make sure that everybody's happy and that we're pleasing people, we're cutting edge, we're keeping people engaged. There's, all this stuff going around. And then I'm lucky to eat at the end of it. I was just saying something on the phone to my mom. And I heard it on a podcast recently, and it's so true. Is guys, you need to understand this. And we're not trying to talk anybody out of entrepreneurship. Like there's wins on both sides of this, like clearly, right? But when you own a company, you do carry liability of anything that happens, no matter if you made the decision or somebody else made the decision. Mm-hmm. Like you own every loss and every failure. Every win, you give that to your team. So you need to be mentally strong to take on those losses to get through, that. And if there's something at the end of the year, that's when you get to eat. You don't get to eat every single day. Like I think a lot of people don't think about that. They think about profit. It's called profit and loss. So there's nothing to eat when there's a loss, right? You feed everybody, and then you're the last one that gets to eat.
Yeah. One of the things I don't think that you give yourself enough credit in like the early stage parts of business when you look back at that history, mainly because the wins and losses, like there were no options. Yeah. Like when you're starting at square one, like there's no business that's like running itself. Like there's no engine yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're building that shit along the way. Right. And one big difference in that to me when I look back on your story and some of those pieces are that effort it takes when you're pushing the ball forward by yourself. Like that whole first chunk of time, call it like probably year 1 through 3. Yeah. You were out there solo pushing the ball forward every day, no matter what anybody said or what was happening, because that's all you had. Like that, there is no organization, there is no career path, there is no growth. It's like, I just need to win today. Like, right. How do I get on top today? Because without it, like you don't get to year 3 through 5. Like these segments that start becoming, more enjoyable or more beneficial is, that's the part where you really gain momentum. But that initial stage, frankly, none of us would be here if you didn't do that. There would be no company. There would be no, all these people and all these companies and all these things that we do without that original investment. And when you look at that, you can do that in a career in a company outside of here, but that payoff isn't ever going to be the same. Right. Even if it, the next big thing, that's now we're talking hopes and dreams versus like what you did to grind through each of those pieces.
It's true. It's big downs and big ups.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. It's not a gradual up. It's way up and way down, and you just got to know how to live on both of those. Yeah. Because that's a shitstorm to deal with. That like when I get like emotional in the whole thing, it's just going like we're fucking killing it, we're winning, let's do this, and then gets yanked out and like, oh dude, what are we gonna do?
What was that?
What are the things that you value in entrepreneurship, starting a company, things like that?
Yeah, so what I talked about some of the reasons. What I don't, right? So let's talk about some of the reasons why I do. Is I'm a creative kind of guy. I think you guys know that. Like I'm an idea person, and that's kind of how this got created and grown from there. And and I hate to say this, but I know this is how some companies are, to be able to make those wild changes that we've made on just some of these random ideas. Like I don't think I would have been able to see that all the way through at a lot of companies, right? Now, like our company's culture is throw anything, let's go try it. What's there to lose? But that's one thing I do enjoy about entrepreneurship is when you're laying in bed at night and you just come up with something that's just fucking like way out. Let's go sit down and talk about it and try it, and like being able to see like something that's just a random imagination come to fruition. And that's one piece. And the second piece is like when you're small, I still consider it's pretty small today, is being able to just like get in a room with people and say like, hey, we have nobody to report to. Like our net profit could be negative margin. It could be, positive X% margin. And how do you guys want to do this? Like, there's not really
Yeah.
like set rules on how to do it. Like, we get to like change and bend those rules, and that's the culture that we built. And that's what I enjoy. And I just enjoy the diversity of like people that come in and how everybody contributes to put a team together. I really feel like I own a football team, and it's just, being able to pick the people. Yeah. They pick us as well, but getting able to put this team together and say, let's go play ball.
Well, that's like the building piece, right? That's so exciting is like, okay, make the call, create the play. I mean, you've done this to me more than a handful of occasions. New idea. Well, what if it works? I'm always like, well, what about this? What about this? Yeah, well, what if it works? Fuck. All right, let's sign up. Let's go. And really legitimately being able to have a conversation that actually makes a change that you might be able to capitalize on. Or to your same point, you might not.
Yep.
So
I'm that risk guy too. It's just like money, that's great and all that, but I'm more on like the opportunity. Like, we're either going all the way up or we're going all the way down. Because I want to see what's there, right? It hasn't been done, and so the ability to do that now, I'm not as crazy as I once used to be, because I have really smart and educated people all around me and great resources where I'm like, hey, like, we all have to buy into this thing, because I don't want to take that loss just on myself.
You want to eat.
Yeah, I want to eat something eventually.
Yeah, I think it's because in an organization, the other side to it is, I like in the first few months being there, the agility of the organization.
Yeah.
Because you don't have that in a big corporate world. Sometimes as you think about decisions like we do, hey, let's talk about this, jump in the conference room. Can we make it work? What are the financials? What do we got to do? We're flipping the play within 3 or 4 hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
2 days later, we're evaluating it, seeing if it worked, adjusting, things like that. In a corporation, you work with really authentic, good leaders. But then the other side is there's always somebody you report up to throughout the chain. And in a lot of cases, the agility of an organization to move it isn't the ability to motivate people and turn the ship. It's the ability to work your way through the organization that people are willing to take risks like you took. There's many a times in my last 20 years I sit back and think, I'm like, we had this discussion. We sit in a room for 10 hours and everybody was on board except 2 people, and we never could get that ship to turn. And some of it worked out. They're in that job for a reason. Other times, it crashed and we missed a key opportunity. So when you think about it, it drives you nuts. I tell people all the time, I said, hey, do you want to be in a boardroom presenting a bunch of information on what you want to do in the future and what you want to do with the business? Or do you want to sit in a room around a group of folks and say, here's something we got to go tackle. Here's a great idea. How do we go execute it? And how do we go do it?
Right.
And then be doing it 2 days later.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's powerful.
It is powerful.
And it's fun.
Right.
Brings more spirit to the organization because
Yeah.
everybody feeds off that.
Yep.
That's right. So I was thinking, I asked you guys a question earlier when we started, like what made you choose one or the other, right? And so I want to answer that same question, and kind of to James' point, like there wasn't like a choice. There obviously was a choice, but fuck it. This is let me just say it straight to you guys. So I was just so close-minded, right? I was doing dishes at a sushi restaurant. I was seeing people successful. I had some good mentors, some bad mentors. You got to work for yourself if you want this, all that other stuff. And so, like, it was instilled in my head, and that's one of the reasons I'm having this conversation, because it doesn't have to be like this for you guys. Is like, you have to go build your business if you want life. Is kind of like what it was put on to me. And so and at the time I couldn't see past washing the dishes. Like, I couldn't see how to grow from washing the dishes to the next thing. Or when I was working on a forklift, like, I couldn't see from working on a forklift and then learning management. I was just in too small of a business at the time. Like, I didn't have the leaders around me to educate and invest into me. And so I was like, I looked at myself with like this big ceiling getting paid I don't know, $12 an hour and saying like, this is what my life looks for like forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I made that choice. And we have like 6-7 minutes before we jump into the next meeting. But I want to ask this one last question to you guys. So there's probably people listening today that are in that spot where like they have a ceiling over their head. They're doing a frontline job and they think they're always going to be in this frontline job, which is not the case because you guys both blew past that, right? You guys are both sitting at a top of a business and helping us go win every day and help other people win. Like, how do you break through that ceiling? Like, if there's not somebody saying like, here's this opportunity, right? Like, that's one of it. Like, how do you get like past that piece?
I would think this may not resonate with everybody, but it's to me, it's more of one of those pieces of you have to actively decide that you're maxing out the experience like in that moment. If you're on a forklift, learn how to be good on a forklift. What's next? Like, you're kind of moving through like, let me maximize like every moment of what am I supposed to be intaking from like right now? If I'm on a forklift, okay, how do I operate it? How do I be good? How do I pick the right product? How do I be accurate?
How do I be the best forklift?
How do I be good at that? But as soon as you are the best at that, you need to move. Like, you need to, if it's in that organization, great, move to the next spot. If it's not, you need to make the call. But if you stay in that spot of where there's this rhythmic come in, come out, I do this job, that's a slippery slope because you get into that comfort zone of this is me, I only do this job. Like, it's so, to your point, like there is that ceiling because it's like, how the hell do I get into a supervisor role when I only know how to be on a forklift? Mm-hmm. And the longer you stay in that, the harder it is to transition.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion is like, as you get through each piece, it's okay, what do I need to get better at next? Because if you just want to be at the top of, if I want to be the best forklift guy in the warehouse, I may be a freaking killer at it. But I'm probably only making, $18 an hour, $17 an hour, whatever the case may be,
right,
to be on a lift. Like, my value, I'm exchanging time still. I'm not exchanging value.
Dude, you just help so many people with that because I think a lot of people today are like in that job.
Yeah.
In a frontline job, and they just say like, this is what I got, I can't do anymore, and then they let off the gas, right? They start, I'm not going to give it 100% anymore, like it is what it is, like I'm not going anywhere, let me just back off. And then they get stuck there forever. And so what you're saying is get on the gas even harder. Hopefully they see it and you're doing every single thing you possibly can, and if they don't see it, go, you need to move, keep going, right?
Well, because I mean, pick the hurdle, but like something, whether it's that organization or it's yourself, like you have to get through the next hurdle. As soon as you decide I'm going to slow down or I'm not going to break through that ceiling, that hurdle, that next speed bump, what are you doing? I mean, are you happy where you're at? If that's a yes, more power to you. I just haven't found that spot yet. I mean, because that's what you develop over a career. You find a spot of where it's like, I value the things I have on this. Yeah, you're going to give up opportunity to stay at a certain level.
Yeah.
So whether that's like, late nights with the boys or whatever the case may be, like there's a cost to.
It's always a trade.
Yeah, you're swapping some variety of value or whatever the case may be, regardless of what choice you make. And I think that's where people get stuck, as if there isn't a trade.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. James, how about you? I mean, corporate America blew the doors off of that, ran. That's like the hardest thing to do, I would say, is build yourself up to the top through corporate America. And it's easy. I don't want you guys to say like, hey, there's just an opportunity and all that. Like there's something that you guys both like drove home.
I think what Scott said was key. I can tell you when I started in the organization, I started loading trucks. So I was a loader. Don't know what I made, probably $13 an hour, something like that. It was a long time ago, right? But whatever it was, I think to Scott's point is I was the best at it, and I always thought of myself as more. And I think one thing I always try to tell people is learn yourself, know yourself, and get to know yourself very intimately. What are your strengths? What are your opportunities? We all get up in the morning and know what we're strong at. We know what worries us about a day.
Yeah.
We know what we're going to do good at. We know what we're not going to do so good at.
Right.
Take those things you're worried about not being so good at, or those things that you know somebody told you need to improve on this and do that. Take that and apply it. Find ways to apply it. Find somebody that you're good at. I had mentors all the way through the organization that I would find that were good at certain things that taught me and brought me to a different level of not just leadership, but of a person. I could wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and that was one thing checked off that I wasn't worried about that day. And I think the more you know yourself and the more you value yourself, Scott made an interesting point, it's a trade for time, right? So whether it's $5 an hour or it's $100,000 a year, whatever it is, you're trading time for it. Know the value of your time and stop and reflect and say, where do I want to spend? Where do I want to change that token for? And how much are you willing to invest before you got to invest in yourself?
That's good.
Every single day.
That's good. And one thing I tell people is, regardless of what you're being paid, your resume is your resume, right? Your time is your time. So if you're at a job and they don't see something in you or whatever it might be, when you guys let your foot off the gas, that's not hurting that large business. That's hurting you guys, because when it's time, when you need to get up and you have kids or whatever it might be and get a job that pays more and your resume doesn't look any different, you're not going to get paid any different. So regardless of like, scratch out the paycheck thing, guys. Yes, get paid, try to make more money and all that stuff, but if that's your driver on why you should work hard or not, you're fucked. Like, period. Like, your driver to work hard should be like, this is who I am. I'm going to give life everything I can, and I'm going to be rewarded for it. And whether this company recognizes me or not, I'm building me right now, and I'm going to take that wherever I need to take that, where somebody does see that. Right?
It's funny. I just had this conversation with my daughter, graduated college a few weeks back, but I was sitting there telling her, I was like, what do you want to do? She said, Dad, I don't know. And she's frantically worried, right? She's got this education now, and it's like I tell my kids all the time, like, it doesn't matter what the title is on the door. What matters is when you walk in the room, are people going to sit up and are they going to go with you? Will they take your hand in difficult moments? Will they take your hand in great moments? I said, but that's not what's on the door. And it's not an entitlement, Sydney. Just because you got this education, this and the other, the world doesn't own you nothing. So if you're sitting back saying, hey, I work hard and I should be in the next job and I should run the company, go put the work in. Go put the work in yourself, work with the company, figure it out. Always know your worth and drive value.
It's amazing.
Every single day.
I like it. Got any adding points?
No, I completely agree with that. I mean, it's to your point, it's invest in yourself. Have a clear vision to that. Don't get sidetracked with all the shiny nickels, right? Because that's where you lose the time, and now you're stuck doing something you don't want to do.
That's right. And in the right companies too, guys. If you're working for the company, the right companies, there's incentives, there's ownership opportunities as you move your way through it, where you do get a piece of what's there. Like these guys that are sitting next to me, that has, it's taken me 10 years to establish a lot of this stuff, and now there's a good team, there's good culture, there's good, like, we have a lot of good things going, where they get a piece of that, and now we're just going to blow this thing up and make it huge. That's right. And so kind of get the supercharger in it. So there are companies where there's different incentives and different things where you do get a piece of that end goal, that some of the last whatever's left on that plate, right? That's out there. So if it's not out there with what you guys are doing today, it doesn't mean that you have to go do something for yourself today. And there's benefits of both. And so one thing I want to leave you guys with is this. There's NFL players today, professional players. They're actually working for a business. These professional athletes that are the spotlights making big money are actually working for a business. So if the NFL player is a quarterback and they're providing all this value and running this, or the coach or whatever, there's a reason why that person's not running the business or owning the business, right?
Right.
Like every kind of, Scott's point is like everybody, and you said this too, but like everybody has like a skill set that, and you put the right people on the team that carry the different responsibilities. That's how you win. Like I could tell you firsthandly, without both of you guys here, I don't know where I'd be. Like I would have to hopefully figure it out, right? Like I have, but like I don't have your guys' skill sets, right? Like you guys both bring something to the table. So if you grab a paper right now, draw a circle and just start putting crosses through it where there's like 30 slices. That's how a good business is. You feel like each slice means something and put a different name there, and that's how you make up a pizza. But without a missing slice, with a slice missing, you're missing a pizza.
Yep.
So,
Well, and to your point, I mean, really, if working within a company and being a part of that organization, it's provide enough value, make the pizza at the end of it big enough to a point that, you know, it can be shared.
that's right.
That's right.
Good point.
I mean, put that value in, create the value, so that's dropping that bottom line and make it big enough that, you know, people can enjoy that and can share that success and, you know, keep that momentum moving.
That's awesome. Guys, I want to say thank you for jumping in and being a part of the movement today, especially with a 5-minute notice. You guys crushed it. I'm grateful for both of you. I'm blessed to be on your guys' team and do business with you guys and be a part of changing lives here, and excited to see where the future goes. So thank you guys for not just helping me, but also helping the movement, share your experiences, and giving back to what we're doing here.
Likewise. Thanks, Dylan.
Likewise.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Do good, guys.
Thanks, guys.